Now, let's examine what happened when the Taliban took over and kicked all of the women out of jobs and made them stop exploring their education. So, the name of this article is Some Taliban Fighters Are Sick of the 9 to 5 Grind, complaining that they've been sucked into urban life by working desk jobs to run Afghanistan. So when they took over, they thought, oh man, this is going to be sweet. Women don't need to work. We can do it. We're men. Apparently, they don't like that. So it says traffic, rent problems, scrolling Twitter all day, and talking to women. It's all part of a strange new life for the men who conquered Kabul. The Taliban captured the nation's capital and seized power in 2021. They had promised then to take a more progressive approach compared to when they ruled in the late 90s, saying that they would allow women more freedoms and treat its citizens fairly. Instead, the fundamentalist regime has continually cut back on allowing women to attend schools and universities and has been unaliving protesters over the last year. Under the Taliban rule, conditions in Afghanistan have returned to what they were in 2001 before the U.S. invaded. Some Taliban soldiers have been installed into positions of privilege in the government, but whisked away from their gun-toting rural lives as holy warriors and now clocking in as mere cogs in the machine. Apparently, they are jaded with this now normalized working conditions. They portray how 5 fighters aged 24 to 32 have gone from watching the skies for drone strikes to grappling with everyday battles like internet addiction and difficult bosses. So they got what they asked for. These men are in charge, and now they got to show us what they can do. Rural and urban fighters and civilians, madrasa and school educated, victors and those now who rule, women outside in public with open faces, and men whose female relatives live in Purda are now all mixing. Look at these dudes in this picture. They are missing the time of jihad. The Taliban used to be free of restrictions, but now we all sit in one place behind a desk and a computer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Life's become so wearisome, you do the same things every day. Like adults. Like adults. Sorry, 24 to 32-year-olds who now have to work every day. Now let's talk about the women who have been displaced because the men swooped in and said, we got this, little ladies, go home and sit down. Even though these men are struggling with the rigors of day-to-day work. So that is about to be part 2. We are worse off. Afghanistan further impoverished as women vanish from workforce. Okay, now let's talk about the women of Afghanistan. This article from The Guardian is titled, We Are Worse Off. Afghanistan Further Impoverished as Women Vanish from the Workforce. One morning last summer, Nasira arrived for work at the government building in Kabul, where she was employed as in a managerial position to find men from the Taliban had occupied her office. I wasn't allowed to enter, the 32-year-old said. When I inquired why, I was told to wait for a government announcement, which never came. This was shortly after the Taliban swept to power and seized Kabul, the capital city, on August 15, 2021. That was the last day that Nasira and thousands of women like her were able to go to work. Though the Taliban's acting prime minister, Mullah Mohammed Hassan Akhund, claimed that women would be allowed to continue working under Sharia law, female government employees in Kabul were told to stay home, and only women whose jobs cannot be done by men were allowed to work. Nasira is technically still employed and receives a significantly reduced salary. They tell me, we are paying you. What else do you need? But money is not my priority. I was responsible for our department services to women citizens. I want to serve my people, especially the women of my country who are not receiving services they need because there are no women officials to help them. It's not only government positions that women have been forced out of. According to Reporters Without Borders, only 100 of Kabul's 700 female journalists were still working by the end of 2021. By 2019, 36% of teachers in the country were women, according to the World Bank data, the highest number for 20 years. But the Taliban's ban in March on education for girls forced many female educators out of work. Current restrictions on women's employment have been estimated to result in an immediate economic loss of up to $1 billion. There is almost universal poverty in the country. The Afghan academic and former minister of mines says it's hard to collect data under the Taliban and access information is limited. But under the previous government, 27% of civil servants and almost 40% of teachers were women, but only a handful of women are allowed to work. Restricting women from participating in economic and public activities will have dire impact on the economy. A UN report warned last December it could, for example, shave $500 million from household consumption alone. Women are typically the ones that are paying for schools, buying food, making dinner, all that stuff. And keeping women out of the workforce and out of education is obviously not helping the economy and not a very smart move with no foresight. But we shall see what the Afghanistan country looks like in a little while.